Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Judd?
Hold on.
Get the flag.
There it is. There it is. Hold on. I got to wave it. There.
Get the flag.
Flag is waving. We're back. We're back.
We're back.
We told you we'd be back.
This is our fourth episode of Purple. And plus, you guys did a Vikings scoop session on Mackie and Judd today.
Mm-hmm.
Is this our fourth episode of Purple Daily? Right?
I was half asleep.
I think it is.
Too.
We
I've
did
lost track.
We did a Cousins.
We did
our
initial
Thor
thing.
draft episode.
We did our initial episode, Thor live recap, second live recap. So this is 4 deep on Purple Daily. Literally 4 verts going.
Four verts of content here. So yeah, welcome in. Breaking news, live edition of Purple Daily here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. If you could please click the subscribe button and the like button, it'll help spread the word about this Vikings community you guys are helping us build. But and the show is presented by our friends at TCL, an official partner of the NFL. TCL is one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. Learn more at TCL.com. The Vikings have a starting cornerback. In fact, they have a good young starting cornerback here. Byron Murphy Jr. Credit to Judd Zulgad for throwing his name out a month ago when we were going through initial free agent lists. And you said, I'm circling this one guy here, Byron Murphy Jr., who checks a lot of boxes. According to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, friend of the show, 2 years, $22 million, so a very reasonable contract. We don't know what the guarantees are, so even more reasonable because it's not all going to be guaranteed. He's 25 years old. He's one of the youngest free agents available on the market. Former second-round pick, coming from that sort of disaster Cardinals organization. Hasn't quite lived up to maybe expectations, and his PFF grades can be a little questionable in spots, but a ton of upside, ton of potential, and maybe most importantly, of the, I want to say 3,000 snaps he's played in his career, about half have come out of the slot. So he can play slot, he can play outside, he's fairly dynamic, and he's 25. He fits all of the sort of things that it seems like Kwesi is trying to find here with these 25 and 26-year-old free agents. So Byron Murphy Jr., come on down to help fix the Vikings' terrible defense.
So this is great because, as you said, Phil, he can play the slot as well, which is, Shannon Sullivan was, if not a disaster, he certainly was not good. And so this now gives you a quality guy that could play the outside or inside. The actual term of the contract, 2 years, surprised me a bit. I think he might be gambling on himself as much as anything.
Yeah.
Because after playing in 16 games as a rookie, 15 games the next year, and then for the second time in 3 years, starting all 16 games in 2021, he only played in 9 games and was slowed by an injury last year. He is the guy that returned. If you recall, there was a game early in the season. I think it ended up being on national TV at the very end. The Raiders were playing the Cardinals, and he picked up either a fumble, I want to say, or picked off a pass. A fumble, right?
Yeah.
And returned it for a touchdown. So by signing a 2-year contract, what this says to me is that he's gambling on himself, which is probably a smart move. But this now changes the dynamic that we also talked about, which is, do the Vikings for sure take a cornerback in the first round of the draft? Do they now have a little bit more latitude to potentially take a wide receiver, an interior defensive lineman? But this, you know what this does too, and by us being so patient and thoughtful in our analysis on Purple Daily episode number, I believe it was 4 today, this explains what they were doing with taking all of that Cousins cap hit on. I still don't love it, but it makes a hell of a lot more sense now to take on more Cousins money potentially with him gone in the voided year of 2024. But I would say that this is definitely, when it's officially culminated, probably at 3:00 tomorrow, definitely something to be excited about.
Yes, I agree. I don't know that he's going to be like a perennial Pro Bowler or All-Pro type, but he definitely has some upside, and he definitely fits what Brian Flores is looking to do, which is versatility in the secondary. You desperately needed someone with some slot experience. So just to break that down for a second, last year he only played about, for the reasons you mentioned, only played about 600 snaps last year. Usually, if you play the whole season, you play about 1,000 snaps as a starter. He played about 60% of the snaps because he missed a bunch of games after week 9. 423 on the outside, 130 in the slot. It was the most outside heavy he's been since his rookie season. But the 2 years before that, he played a combined 1,100 snaps out of the slot. And according to Pro Football Focus, actually one of the better run defending cornerbacks in the NFL last year, and sort of passable coverage grades. So just a good, competent, young cornerback with upside, and again, flexibility, because you're not locking into a monster contract here if you're the Vikings. So you still have potentially money to spend depending on who else because they got a bunch of decisions they have to make between now, maybe even and tomorrow with Harrison Smith, Za'Darius. So yes, Vikings fans, this is a huge step in the right direction for fixing this defense.
It was a back problem too that kept him out for a good portion of last year. My guess is, and I don't know, Phil, if the PFF stats that you are looking at have this, but my guess is that the Vikings also feel that he can hold up big time in man coverage, which is incredibly important. That's why Patrick Peterson was allowed to leave, because the Vikings had doubts about him and at his age in man coverage, and that was almost certainly justified. So yeah, this is a definite right track move. This is a move. So this also stays within the parameters of what we've seen defensively here, which is signing a couple guys on short-term contracts who are young, who the Vikings like and think have potential, but are either coming off injury problems or there's just questions about. Davenport and now this. Davenport, what? A 1-year agreement, I think, was reported at $13 million. This one is 2 years at 22. But honestly, for where the Vikings are right now, I love this strategy. I love taking some chances here. If the guys work out, you try and keep them. If they don't work out, you're not wedded to them for 5 years. If Murphy was coming off a healthy season, my guess is he gets 4 to 5 years and takes that and breaks the bank. He doesn't break the bank here, though, because he was coming off a year in which there's probably questions about his back. But this is, in my opinion, a super sound strategy given where things are at. Again, it all depends on where you're at in your window. If you're in your window and you're like, we got a really good chance to be a hell of a team and competitive, I don't know that you roll the dice and take chances as much, but the Vikings have nothing to lose here. And by getting guys on short-term contracts, I think it's a really prudent, smart move.
Yeah, Dex, what was your first reaction when you saw, hey, they signed a starting cornerback tonight?
Well, it's about time, because that was what I was looking for them to do in free agency so far. I think my bigger question here is, so he's clearly going to be, I think, the quote-unquote QB, cornerback 1, if you will, on this depth chart, unless they find a rookie that's even more sensational or they find another big-time free agent. But you have about 4 cornerbacks currently on your roster, all under the age of 25. So it's a position where, I mean, people fall off the cliff pretty quickly. We saw it with Xavier Rhodes. Pat Peterson had a bit of resurgence last season, but obviously he's no longer the player he was when he was also an All-Pro and potential Hall of Fame player in Arizona. So you are trusting that Brian Flores, who does have a very good track record, by the way, of playing and of coordinating very good defenses, that he's going to get the most out of 4 cornerbacks who are all pretty inexperienced outside of Byron Murphy, and that teams aren't going to pass all day on them. So it's a little bit of a boomer bust, but to Judd's point, you're not committing long-term money. And if some of these guys start to pop up, like a Lewis Seen, Andrew Booth, a Caleb Evans, maybe when those guys hit their second, third contract or whatever it is, you're able to afford those guys in the meantime. But right now it's kind of boomer bust with a lot of young cornerbacks that you're trusting here.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be, and Flores does have experience in taking young defenses. I mean, look what he did. The first year in Miami, it took a year, and they were still a bad defense his first year, but then boom, the second year it clicks, and all of a sudden they're giving Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City trouble. So who knows how long it's going to take here. Just, Judd, you were kind of asking about the statistical side, the Pro Football Focus grades. So Byron Murphy has not graded well in man coverage the last couple of years, and he sort of grades middle of the pack in terms of some of the slot metrics. He has been historically a better run-stopping cornerback than a coverage cornerback. But again, I want to emphasize, the Cardinals have been a whirlwind disaster franchise the last couple of years. The Vikings are not.
Yep.
The Vikings have a better coaching staff, and he's 25 years old. This is another, Kwesi has shown you his cards in terms of like what he likes to do with stocks, right? He likes to buy low on stocks. Jalen Reagor was a buy low stock. Marcus Davenport, a buy low stock. And I would say to some extent, Byron Murphy Jr. is a buy low stock for Kwesi. And they can sort of test drive. 2023 seems like a transitional sort of reset year in a lot of ways. You can test drive. If he takes a jump forward, boom, now you got him under contract for 2024. You could do an extension, and he would still be in his prime by 2 or 3 years. So, by the way, we're throwing comments up on the screen here too, so we'd love to hear from you guys, Purple Daily viewers here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. What do you think? Are you in on this? Are you excited about what the Vikings are doing with some of these major changes? Are you still in wait and see mode? I'm curious to sort of get the temperature of the room here with Vikings fans.
So how much do you guys think that this changes the potential parameters for the draft? Because that's what interests me now, the first round pick. It could be a corner still. I don't think it has to be. And I do think that part of why it's smart to create this potential cushion is I don't think where, as our mock drafts have shown, I don't think where the run on positions is going to come.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want the Vikings to take a corner at the at their pick because they're like, oh my God, there's one left and we sort of like him, but that feels very much like the Bradbury pick or the Treadwell pick, right? So I think that this does create a little bit of cushion where, let's just say for the sake of this, wide receivers start to fall a little bit, okay? So then it's like, okay, I really like this guy. A corner's there and he's okay, but we've got one. And furthermore, the best ones are gone. I think the Vikings are really at a point here where it's not lip service to say they need to take, it's not that they don't need to take a position of need, but they need to take the best player that they possibly can at that position and not force it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it gives you flexibility. You don't want to go into a draft desperately needing a position because if the board plays out and like the Vikings did this with quarterback 10 years ago, right? We need a quarterback. We need a franchise quarterback. And Christian Ponder, oh my God, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can feel good about the young stable you have at quarterback, I don't think this prevents you from drafting a cornerback in the first round because it's loaded. And so if there's a Joey Porter Jr. or somebody that you love, a guy who can, be physical at the line of scrimmage, play outside, I don't think this would prevent you from making that move, but it definitely makes you less desperate for sure. Here's another really interesting nugget about Byron Murphy Jr. This is from Scott Barrett on Twitter. He's from fantasypoints.com. I don't know. He's got 82,000 Twitter followers, so
sounds legit to me.
Must be legit enough. Who knows? He says Cooper Kupp has hit 90 receiving yards in 21 of his last 23 games. He fell under 65 yards in his 2 other games. So 21 of 23, he's over 90. The other 2, he was under 65. Mm-hmm. This is back in September. He tweeted this. Prior to last week, Devontae Adams had hit double-digit fantasy points in 32 straight games. And then that streak came to an end. The common denominator? Shadow coverage from Cardinals cornerback Byron Murphy Jr.
Oh, where's that? Where's that flag? Oh, here's the flag. Hold on a second. Get rid of the gopher flag.
What's the gopher flag even doing anywhere?
Why is that even there?
Why is it even in the room at this point?
I got a gopher one. I got a wild one. I got all types of. I got all the flags ready. Go
I feel
for
like
hockey,
the gopher flag. Okay,
go
go for hockey.
Go
number
for
one
hockey.
in the country.
Win the Frozen Four. You don't
That's
know
a fair
that.
point.
I got
That's
all
fair.
the flags.
Yeah, okay.
That's a fair
Proud
point.
of nice, yeah.
That's a fair point.
Thank you.
So, how about that for a nugget? Interesting. Very interesting. And still very moldable. Boy, it is amazing what Kwesi had laid out here very clearly. Yeah. We're gonna get about 10 years younger in 2 different defensive spots. We're gonna be better at run blocking, and screw you, anyone who has a problem with it. We're gonna bring in one of the best run blocking tight ends, and we're gonna clear a bunch of cap space. Yeah, the Kirk Cousins move is the only thing that doesn't fully align because it's the only thing that shoves more money into 2024.
Right.
But even with that, like, there's a couple more moves likely coming they probably said, well, okay, if we keep Kirk's contract the way that it is, we're going to have top 3 cap space in 2024. If we move some money to make it a little easier to sign some players like Byron Murphy Jr., we can move some of Kirk's money into the future. We're still going to have top 5 cap space at the end of the day for 2024.
Right.
So maybe Kirk was the one where they said, all right, we don't have to eat everything in 2023. We can put some of this into 2024.
I much prefer this to the reports I read earlier today that Bradbury had agreed to a 3-year contract and Cousins had redone his contract to fit him in. It's like, I don't think they're doing it for Garrett Bradbury, guys. I think it's for something else. This at least makes more sense. But I do love the idea of getting young players who might not have reached their potential into the locker room to give them a chance, but not be wedded to them with stupid contracts.
Yeah.
And in both cases, that's what they've done. And yes, I'm with you. I think that their plan this time around is much more in line with what we all expected a year ago.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look, the Kirk thing is the Kirk thing, and it's its own sort of different entity. But as far as like bringing in other players and bringing in talent and not signing veterans or not keeping a guy, and he played well, God bless him, seemed like a great guy, but not keeping Pat Peterson around, right? Like that's the type of guy you're like, why are you keeping him around? You're not going to win a ring with him. And so this time, I think what we are seeing is the progression of what the Kwesi and O'Connell plan probably was, and I would guess because of the Wilfs got put on hold a year ago, and now it's not, which I like.
It's time now, gentlemen, to take a look at Byron Murphy Jr.'s old scouting combine scouting reports.
Oh, yes.
No, I feel like there should be some music for this or something.
I can get you music.
Thank you.
Judd just calling for production.
He's gonna put his contacts back in. He's got his glasses on, but
no, my contacts
You have
are
contacts and glasses on.
You didn't know this? I can't. So I haven't been able to see far since like 7th grade. So I have contacts, and I've had contacts for 40 some odd years, but in the last 5-6 years, I can't see close with my contacts in. So I have to wear cheaters to read close. If I take my contacts out, I can't see far. I can see close. So my contacts are back in.
Complete guess here. Isn't that what the bifocals are for?
I talked to my eye doctor about that, and he's like, what you're doing is fine. And plus, if you get bifocal contacts, which I think you can, that's a lot of work. And then I'm asked why I don't get LASIK. And look, I just put the damn contacts back in, okay? I'm fine.
Unless one of the LASIK clinics wants to sponsor Judd's hockey show, in which case,
no, definitely
Judd
can get it then.
for...
Yeah, I'll talk about it. I don't know that I'm going to get my eyes.
Okay, Byron Murphy Jr. This is back in 2019, right? I think he was a prospect back in 2019. This is what Lance Zierlein, NFL analyst from NFL.com, was saying about his strengths. All right. Mm-hmm. Body type, a little underdeveloped, but not small. Has all the football IQ and instincts teams look for. Coached to maintain sightline to quarterback for optimal recognition.
God. I'm glad. You know what? This was worth getting off the couch for and ending my nap just to hear that.
Twitchy feet for instant plant and drive.
Football.
Good downfield body control to track and play the ball. Steps downhill and strikes like an angry safety.
Football.
And has twitch and toughness for consideration at the nickel spot.
Football.
So he's got the twitch.
Very twitchy, yes. Some of the weaknesses a few years back, and maybe some of these still exist. Now that he sort of lacks the height, weight, because he's under 6 feet tall, lacks the sort of measurables associated with great outside corners. Mm-hmm. My guess is they might ask him to play more slot than outside. Grabs and hitches to receiver to help match the pattern.
Football.
Can't do that.
Some of the stuff sounds almost made up.
Bumpy backpedal and lacks fluidity in his transition and can be stacked by big targets.
Football.
Can't be stacked.
Doesn't appear to be an explosive leaper and has average recovery burst when beaten from press.
Football.
So there's some things to watch out for as you're watching the new Vikings cornerback, Byron Murphy Jr.
I wonder if he's going to play, just to go inside football here. I wonder if he's going to play both inside and out, because I wonder if there will be certain matchups. I still think there's a fighting chance that they use a guy like Scene as a linebacker. Something like that. I kind of think they're going to, I mean, we expected them to get creative a year ago, and we're completely wrong, and it's a shame. But but that's what Donatell sold O'Connell on, right? I got to think that there's more creativity coming this time.
You mean Flores compared to Donatell?
Well, yeah, but Donatell sold creativity and then he didn't do it. So Flores is going to. So my point is, you don't in today's game, you don't have to use Byron Murphy just exclusively inside or outside. You could create some certain matchups and situations, and the slot corner now is such a starting job as well that player, it used to be, aside from a guy like Antoine Winfield, right? That job used to be, okay, I'm the slot guy. I just wonder now if there's more opportunities to get creative.
I think comparing the creativity of Brian Flores defensively to Ed Donatell
Oh,
is
I'm not
like a fourth grader finger painting versus
I'm not comparing him. I'm saying Ed
Michelangelo.
Ed told us a year ago he was going to be creative, and he wasn't, because we sat on this show last year at this time dreaming about the potential for matchups, and I said I think Scene can play once he got drafted linebacker and blah blah blah. Nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Flores is going to do stuff. You're not going to sit there twiddling his thumbs.
Flores is going
He's
to
gonna do
do
stuff.
stuff.
Not going to twiddle his thumbs. You want an honest assessment? He ain't going to twiddle his thumbs.
You want a deep dive breakdown of what the Vikings are going to do? That's it right there. Judd
Stuff.
Zolgad, put it on a T-shirt. Brian Flores is going to do stuff. Let's
Darn
make
straight.
it happen.
Darn straight. He's going to introduce stuff to the defense, which they didn't have last year. Very disappointed.
The other big news from tonight, the Vikings are getting the special teams band back together. They bring back Andrew DePaula, one of the best long snappers in the NFL. I think it's a record guarantee, right? It's like is it like a 3 or 4 year deal, and they're guaranteeing him 7 figures, I want to say.
Okay.
So DePaula's back, and then Greg Joseph is back on a 1-year contract for a couple $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about that? I think our guy Ryan Longwell has told us for years that just keeping the same group together is vitally important. And I saw Chris Thomason went back the last 9 years. The Vikings have only brought back the same special teams trio one other time. And I think that was the year Dan Bailey came back and then got cut. So it didn't even last that long. So just having some continuity should help there. But Greg Joseph did tie for the most extra point misses in the NFL. And in terms of field goal percentage, make percentage, one of the worst. It was 28th in the NFL in field goal make percentage. He missed a total of 13 kicks, extra points, and field goals last season.
I want legit competition this time. If you remember a year ago, the Vikings brought in another punter and another kicker. They quickly ceded the job to Greg Joseph, but Ryan Wright was allowed to, much to my surprise, win the punting job, right? I want a competition this time. I don't want it to be a camp leg. I don't want it to be, it's your job. You can't have the season that he had and not have competition. DePaulo's great. The guy, I mean, it's weird. It's good fortune. The Vikings seem to have had a really nice line of long snappers who have been here a long time and been really good. Mike Morris, Cullen Loeffler, now this kid. But I want the kicking competition. I want a competition. I want a fair shake for both guys, and I want the guy who's the best to win the job. I do not want Joseph just to show up and have the job.
This doesn't feel like a competition. This feels like they signed Greg Joseph to be their kicker.
I'd like to criticize that then.
I think
you know what I'd like him to do? More stuff. I'd like him to do more stuff on special teams. I'd like to see the guarantees, but this one to me, if they're, when they were smart enough to say we're going to have a punting competition, why wouldn't you say, all right, you know what? We're going to bring in a legit kicker too. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. I mean, kids with big legs, and Kevin O'Connell, I think actually, if you brought in a young kicker, with Zimmer it was death because he couldn't stand the kid. O'Connell will be fine with it. I just think that you need to have an actual competition and apply intense pressure to Greg Joseph, because if he starts to melt down, I'm out.
It's a $2.5 million 1-year contract for Joseph with $1.7 million guaranteed. So I don't think that guarantees he's gonna, if he has a disastrous training camp or something, it's not so much money that you would get rid of him. But I don't think they're actively looking. He is the guy. I don't think they're actively looking. He'd have to train wreck in the offseason to not be the guy. So I don't think you're going to get your wish. Maybe they bring a camp leg in and you see what happens. But I don't love Greg Joseph because he's in a Vikings kicker history filled with shakiness.
Yep.
He's very shaky.
Yep.
He also did nail, correct me if I'm wrong, a 60-yard game winner at one point this year. So you see like the tantalizing part of him. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, Declan's the Greg Joseph stan of the show here, so you must be elated that your guy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought Greg Joseph had multiple game-winning kicks, was perfect in the playoff game against the Giants, really found his stride in the last 8 to 9 games, and you're asking to bring in competition? No, you found your kicker. You have continuity with your kicker. Matt Daniels was trying to get him going a little bit. They kept with him. They stayed with him. I'm sorry, did Greg Joseph have anything to do with the Vikings being out of the wild card round last year? No,
he tried. He tried hard.
Oh, that's interesting because I remember him being perfect in the playoff game. So I don't remember him giving up the 500 yards of defense. So I think Greg Joseph was fine.
Greg Joseph didn't check down on 4th and 8.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, at least he kicks the ball to the goalpost.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? My guess is that the Vikings came to this agreement with Byron Murphy Jr., took a big breath and said, "Hey guys, you know what is going to happen right now?" And they said, "What, Kwesi?" And he said, "The boys are going live on PD. So let's all turn on the TV. Let's all be quiet and watch." And so I'm talking to them right now. I'm appealing to them. Do not just give the kicking job away, you guys. You're doing too many good things to do a dumb thing. Create the competition. May the best man win and make it a real competition.
I love how now you're all of a sudden fixated on, it's a 1-year deal for Greg Joseph. Now you're fixated on 2023 kicking competition. Why not see what you have, just like you're doing with Marcus Davenport and Byron Murphy?
You did last year. Now I want a competition. Last year I didn't get it.
This nugget from Kevin Seifert on Byron Murphy, very interesting. So Byron Murphy is the cornerback who replaced Patrick Peterson in Arizona a few years ago, and then now replaces Patrick Peterson again as he departs the Vikings. So we don't really know what kind of room they have here because we don't know what the structure of the Byron Murphy contract is. We don't know exactly how much cap space they have because they don't have to be, they're compliant with the Kirk Cousins sort of shuffling, but we don't know what's going to happen yet with Harrison Smith, Za'Darius, Dalvin Cook. There's still some other moves they could make, a Brian O'Neill restructure. Yep. But if they do have room, may I suggest keep going here? DJ Chark. You're looking for every free agent they've signed has been 25, 26. He's 26 years old, ton of upside. Injuries have kind of brought his value down in free agent. So maybe it's like a 2-year deal for him, and then he can hit the market again when he's 28 years old if he wants to. A deep threat opposite Justin Jefferson. We've thrown that out quite a bit, and so far the show seems to really be on point. So yeah, I love that idea. Not to dislocate your shoulder, patting ourselves on the back. But.
Hey, when you do 5 shows in one day before free agency has started, you get to pat yourself on the back and insist. You know what? Here's my question: Star Tribune doing a show right now? Pioneer Press. KFAN live right now.
Does the Pioneer Press even have internet?
Yeah, I'm actually by the printing plant. I'll go check. I'm literally across the street. I'll just go check.
From Heritage, I used to go pick up papers there, bring them back to. Yeah.
I will say, we are wrong a lot, and we go through our accountability session every Wednesday on both Purple Daily and Mackie and Judd, where we tell you just how wrong we are. But the 2 things we nailed today, going back like 3 weeks ago, Byron Murphy Jr., you nailed that one. And the Kirk Cousins reshuffling plan that nobody was talking about except for this show, right? That, hey, there's another option here besides extension or a cut. You could actually just restructure his current deal and shove money into the void years.
You're right.
And free up some cap space. And that's what they have done here.
And they brought back their kicker. That wasn't a problem. So, I mean, we're 3 for 3 now. Things are going great.
It's the only 3 times we're going to be right, basically, for the next
we'll take them, though.
3 months.
It's Vikings. We'll take it. As long as we're right on Vikings, we're fine.
Again, thank you guys for hanging out with us here. If you could click the subscribe button and the like button on this video here, you can help spread the word about Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Judge Stradamus, people are calling you in the comments section. Judge Stradamus.
Coffee and play again, 9:50 p.m. Never too late for coffee.
I have a thought here. I think because Doogie was reporting today on the Scoop that he's been told Harrison Smith news will happen today. And we're sitting here, it's 10 o'clock Central Time. Here's my thought. If they couldn't reach an agreement on a pay cut, which is like the Vikings were asking him to take a pay cut. They weren't going to restructure. They're not going to kick more money into future years. I think my guess is just educated guess. The Vikings wanted Harrison Smith for one more year, but for less money and no obligation cap-wise beyond 2023. And it's kind of up to Harrison Smith if he wants to play ball or if he just wants to go and play for a different team, and we'll find out. But if that was decided today, if they couldn't reach an agreement and they were going to wind up cutting him, I don't think they would just announce that at like 10 o'clock p.m.
Right.
I think they would give him the 9 a.m. full press rollout like they did with Adam Thielen and Eric Kendricks. So that
at least until 3 o'clock
prediction.
Tomorrow. They'll give him that 9 to 3 block of thanks for the memories.
But they wouldn't bury it at like midnight, is what I'm saying. They put together Wilf quotes and KOC quotes and stuff, right?
Dukes just texted me and said that there is not a decision yet. So at this point, we're probably talking tomorrow, and you're probably right.
You think he gets cut?
Yeah.
Wow. I think Venn might be also working on like a little package. They want to release that at the right time. Vikings Entertainment Network, that is. You never know either, too. So that might be in the works.
Harrison Smith, one of the greats.
He will come back. He will be a Ring of Honor guy, but he might be chapped. I think some of these guys are going to be a little bit like Thielen's all chapped right now. And
he's going to Carolina.
Great word.
To work
is
out.
He?
He's going to be, it sounds like he's going to start a tour of potential homes in Carolina tomorrow. Visiting with the Panthers.
The Panthers are going to work him out?
No, they actually, it's like an old school visit like you used to see a lot more of. It feels like we don't see that as much now. It used to be commonplace. So he's going down there to talk to him, probably take a look around the facility, kick the tires, and decide if he wants to play with a quarterback who they don't know yet, but might be a really good rookie quarterback.
Yeah. I wonder how he feels about, Aaron Rodgers, and apparently we're going to maybe find out tomorrow on Rodgers on the McAfee show, but
Thielen was not on that list.
He was not.
He was not on the list. Cobb was. Mercedes Lewis, who's like 38, was.
Wait,
Lazard
was? Mercedes Lewis was on? Does someone have like a Rodgers list? Or I thought that was satire.
No, ESPN really is reporting there is a list. I've heard it talked about legitimately on ESPN radio on no fewer than 2 shows. No, there is a real list. And it really had Lazard, which makes sense. Cobb, Mercedes Lewis, despite the fact the Jets have 2 tight ends, including our guy, Gronklin.
Some people are tweeting Donald Driver, John Kuhn.
Donald Driver.
Oh, man.
No, Brett would have had double D, right? Donald Driver.
Did Driver? I thought Driver played with Rodgers too, didn't he?
I thought he was retired by then.
Really?
I covered Driver. No, I think Greg Jennings was the first.
Driver because he won a Super Bowl. It's a great day to be great. Is what he said when they won.
Driver played till 2012 with the Packers, so he definitely.
Did he really?
He played 5 years with Aaron Rodgers.
I forget. I was gone by then, but I didn't remember that. Jordy Nelson. That's another good one.
Yeah, what's he doing? Just bring them all.
Was Driver effective through 2012?
I think he had a decent year towards the end, didn't he? Didn't he?
Greg Jennings was really good at that point.
I'm thinking of James Jones. Now they all just are blending together.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't know that Driver. I thought he was gone by then. But anyway,
Robert Ferguson.
Oh my God. But the Thielen thing is sort of weird because you would have thought that if he was trying to assemble veteran receivers he liked, Jermichael Finley. He was brought up by Declan earlier today that he actually might have targeted Thielen, but whatever.
Yeah, well, have fun in Carolina. On to better things, as the Thielen family put out on Instagram.
You know what?
This isn't about Thielen anymore. This is about 25-year-old, 26-year-old free agents, new Vikings. This is a new era that's being ushered in here. This feels like finally the end of the previous chapter the beginning of a new chapter, but without like a full tank job like you see with some of these garbage franchises.
Yes.
This feels more like the competitive rebuild that we were told would happen last year.
Yeah.
Because in retrospect, last year was not really a rebuild at all. It was actually hindering the rebuild. But they won 13 games. Maybe it was worth it. And now the competitive rebuild commences, and you can get younger, you can get more athletic, faster on defense, and start to focus on what's next.
If this offense is actually not improved in 2023, I'll be very surprised. I think this offense is going to be better. A year of O'Connell, more of his guys for the sake of versatility and scheme. Like, who have you subtracted? Thielen? Okay. If this was him in his prime, that hurts.
Yeah.
This doesn't hurt. Now, if you can replace him too, you've taken a step up.
Yes. Yep. Got to see who they replace him with.
Look at me being Mr. Positive.
Well, I think the whole week we've been mostly positive here.
I know, but I'm still surprised when I'm this positive.
You guys get any other big hot takes here on this late breaking news here before we turn the lights out? Not necessarily sleep, but wait for more Vikings news.
Yeah, I don't sleep now. I just wait.
I was gonna fire up Ted Lasso. I was literally
Dude,
really
we
looking forward.
were 10 minutes into the first episode of season 3, and this news came down.
I made the
and
fiance,
I looked at my wife and I was like, "We got to pause
go.
Teddy Lasso." She's like, "No, you go."
I was taking
do your thing.
I was taking a nap.
I made the fiance take the dog out. So 2 dogs in the doghouse probably this evening. It'll be
Oh, you made her take the dog out?
I thought you'd be proud of me for doing that, Judd.
That's
yes.
awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
No, you know what? It's all. I told Dawn. Dawn's been gone for like 5 days. Came home. I said, when you come home, I'm going to be doing a show because the
No eye
Vikings
contact.
just signed.
Don't talk
No,
to
I
me.
just said don't make too much noise.
Make me
I
a
said don't make
sandwich.
too much noise when you get. No, I didn't say that. I said don't make too much noise when you come in the door because I'm going to be doing a show because the Vikings just signed.
Wait,
a
the
major.
first thing you said to your wife who's been gone for 5 days is don't make too much noise when you come home.
I actually went to see her
What a romantic.
earlier, but then when I called her when she got done with work, I said, "Don't make too much noise when you come in the door because I'm going to be doing a show because the Vikings just had a huge signing." This week is not this is not a week about relationships, as the Vikings have proven. This is a week about football.
Matt Bowen chimes in here. He's one of the. I think Matt Bowen. I think he's still at ESPN.
He's good.
Remember that Edge NFL matchup show where they would just break down film? I think that show is still tucked away somewhere, and I think Matt Bowen's on it.
Like 6 a.m. on Sundays. It's really good if you watch it. Which
it used to be like Merrill Hodge and Ron
Sal Pal.
Jaworski and stuff. Sal Pal.
Sal Pal hosted.
So I think Matt Bowen hosts that. So he's kind of a film junkie. He says, I like the fit for Byron Murphy in Minnesota with Flores, man coverage traits. We'll see more single high schemes with the Vikings this season and pressure. And Byron Murphy fits that bill. And then on the Pro Football Focus front, real quick here. So they had Jamel Dean and James Bradbury as the top 2 cornerbacks. They had Byron Murphy Jr. as the 6th best cornerback and the 45th best overall free agent. And the write-up was Murphy boosted his stock this season by playing primarily on the outside after splitting reps with a skew toward the slot over his first 3 seasons. Earned the highest overall and coverage grades of his career in the process. He'll be 25 through the entire 2023 season, and his inside-outside flexibility makes him an intriguing option for teams that need help in the secondary. So, all right, boys.
Good move.
There you go. I think you should get the flag one more time here, just to really hammer it home.
Oh, yep. Hold on. There we go. There we go, ladies.
That's right. Let's celebrate.
There goes the flag.
Let's celebrate Brian Flores doing stuff.
Do stuff. Greg Joseph's do stuff.
All right, there's your emergency 4th episode of the day here on Purple Daily. We are your home for Vikings offseason news and speculation and hashtag takes. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Now, go get some sleep, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow morning for Harrison Smith Day.